Welcome to the She Self Cares podcast. I'm your host, Bece, aka BC Bright, and this is the show where we dive deep into the world of self-care, personal growth, and empowerment. Each week, we will explore the practices, stories, and strategies that help women like you prioritize their well-being and live life to the fullness, body, mind, and soul. If you're ready to embark and embrace your power, transform your life, and thrive in every area, then you are the right place. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome everyone to another series of our She Self Cares podcast. And as always, I'm always excited to have this amazing conversation with amazing women. And today we have Daniela Rogers, and I love a bio, which I'm going to read a short bio of hers, and then we'll get started. But as usual, this is a space for women. We call it the Triple E. To encourage, educate, and equip women to prioritize themselves and thrive in all aspects of their lives. And one of the way we do that is through this conversation where we have with amazing women. So today I'm going to read a quick short bio, and then we'll get started. So today we have Daniela on with us today. She is a holistic health coach with over 23 years of experience. She's passionate about helping others thrive by addressing the root cause of imbalance. After overcoming her own chronic health challenges through nutrition, herbal medicine, and lifestyle changes, she now empowers others to heal from within using food as medicine, plant-based remedies, and mindfulness movements. Her approach focuses on working with the body, not against it, to restore wellness and vitality. And in her own words, she said, I would love to get the message across to women that if we work with our body and not against it, we thrive. No punishment, no deprivation, but softness and consistency. This is where I see the greatest changes. Welcome, Daniela, to our She Self-Care Collective podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to spend an hour with you and just chat.
Absolutely. I always ask before we get into it, what's the essence of Daniela? Just tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and your essence of who you are.
Ooh, okay. In a as short a tiny bubble as I can, I am extremely passionate about just bringing people back to themselves. And for me, like I said, I spent 24 years of my life not feeling like myself and just feeling unwell. And that it set the tone for pain to purpose, basically. I know where I am now, but I love nature. I love deep belly laughs. I love raw, authentic. Good, bad, and ugly is always like a hashtag that I tell everyone. I want it all. And that's exactly what I strive for on my day-to-day basis, is just experience everything in its absolute, all its levels, volume up.
I love that. The good, bad, the ugly, the all in between, everything. I love it. And like you're saying, from pain to purpose, because oftentimes it's our pain that actually propel us into who we are and what we're supposed to be doing in terms of our purpose. So I love that you said that. But let's start also with this and say it's because as we're talking about today, the topic is nutrition over punishment and how to work with our bodies, not against it, in order for us to thrive. So I feel like this is one of those conversations that, we think about, but we often don't talk about or put into perspective in terms of having this conversation. So let's start with this. What does nutrition over punishment means to you in the context of health and wellness?
So that was a big thing for me when I started my career. I learned early on that nourishment versus punishment. I was on the wrong end of the spectrum. I punished my body on levels that I wasn't even aware of until way later in my career. And I could never understand why I was never getting better. I was doing all the right things, but I felt terrible. I didn't feel, like I said, I didn't feel like myself. I was just this vessel moving from one thing to the next. And I would override every little whisper that my body sent out. I would just go, not now, don't have time, shove that down, ignore. So moving on, when I started healing my own body, it wasn't the punishment. There was no deprivation. I brought nourishment back into my body and I started listening. So everything that brought me joy or fed parts of me physically, mentally, emotionally, that's what I started focusing on. I took away the things that were triggering my body on a lot of levels, and I brought things in that were feeding my body. And that's where that tagline kept coming up for me. Like, it must be nourishment over punishment, not the reverse.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. And I mean, it sounds like that's, like you said, that's where your journey kind of began when you start realizing that, you are just, it seems like and we all do that. We're just checking the box of what is
Mm,
supposed. We wake up, we da 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 da. I make sure I get my
yeah.
30 minutes or 1 hour of this, and we just power through and just whatever we need. And society has told us many times over and over again, even without spelling it out, that we need to punish our body, right? In order for us to
Mm,
get
yeah.
where we need to be, either true size or true, oh, I'm taking 10 vitamins, or I'm taking this, whatever the case may be, we are often known to just check the box, and it has to be a sacrifice for it to make it worthy, for us to be worthy of whatever, almost like.
Exactly. And the industry that I was in, because I started as a personal trainer,
Mm,
and in that industry, you are taught this is the box you fit into. You need to
yeah.
look a certain way. You have to take all the calories down to bare minimum, fat burners. And it never resonated. I couldn't understand why, just like I said, felt worse and worse and worse. Up at 4:30 in the morning on a spinning bike by 5 a.m., shouting at people to, get going. And it never sat well. And then I'd
Mm,
see these women who were thriving, and it wasn't what I was doing. It was the opposite. And they were
mm,
they were often a lot older than what I was, because I was in my very early 20s. And I'd watch them and I think something is missing. Like, there's a key component. And exactly that, through my own healing, realizing, wait a second,
yeah.
undoing is actually where we start the magic. We take
That's
away all this excess and this noise and come back to ourselves.
absolutely.
Simplify and nourish.
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I know you said your own journey, which of course, the way you feel, how you felt, was there any particular kind of in your journey, any kind of illness or something that, that was on that you can track as time goes on? Like, "Wait, this is where I was in terms of this journey. And when I
Mm.
kind of changed, this is what it was. Is there any particular journey for you that actually make you realize your relationship with over nourishment over punishment?
So I was born with full body eczema. It was
Mm.
told that it was a genetic thing. All the firstborn in our family had it. So just sit tight, get comfy. This is going to be your reality. So full
Wow.
body eczema, hay fever. I always looked like
Yeah.
I was crying. Like, I'd often get asked, like, are you okay? Meanwhile, it was just so many allergies and gut
Yeah.
issues. So I would live up until the age of 24. I would live on cortisone topically. So big blob of cortisone all over my face. I would take antibiotics, cortisone internally. And when I met my now husband, obviously, I used to have to put yellow gloves on, the dishwashing gloves, those sexy things. I'd have to wear those at night just not to scratch myself
Right.
open.
Oh
It
boy.
was that bad. And
Mm,
we started realizing, both, it was actually him that came to the realization. He's like, but hang on, babe, every time you eat this or every time you drink coffee, like, you're having a 5-hour sneezing fit. Something's not right. And
yeah.
that, the penny dropped there. And then I
Mm,
started realizing I was doing all these supposed health things, but
yeah.
nothing was working. So that's where I realized, right, work with the body, start
Mm,
listening. It's been whispering for decades. Start listening. And in doing that, going, okay, Daniela, I'm Italian. you're Italian, but you can't drink coffee. Like,
Yeah.
this is not working. And I took away all these triggers that were making me feel horrible, and I simplified and I softened and I
Yeah.
listened to my body. And I have for 18 years not had a single one of those symptoms. I'm
Oh,
the exact opposite. I don't even look like I used to look. The inflammation's gone, my eczema, not a single patch left, no hay fever, allergies, nothing. So
wow.
that's where I realized, like, for me, it was supposed to be a forever thing. It's a
Yeah.
lifetime. It's a
Correct.
label. You're stuck with it. It wasn't. And
Mhm.
that's what I strive for every day, is just giving that little bit of hope back, going, you're designed to heal. We just need to
Yes.
simplify and get out of your way, actually,
Mhm.
out of our own way.
I love that. I love that. And I love the fact that, oftentimes, like you said earlier, our body tells us what it needs and what it doesn't
Oops.
need, right? And if we listen enough and we pay attention, we'll find it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes we are so in this checkbox, and this is what everybody's doing. This is what I should
Yeah.
look like, right? This is what I should look like. This is what health is saying. This is what Oprah is saying. This is what
Mhm.
whatever it's saying, and that's what I
Trending.
should do. Yeah, this is what is trending. That's what I should be doing, rather than listening to ourselves. And I love that you meant this with your story and your journey, and in terms of food allergy or seasonal allergies, or finding those triggers in you and able to journal. I'm assuming you did a lot of journaling, you did a lot of reflection. I'm assuming you
Mhm.
took a lot of things out of your diet and just putting it back one at a time just to see which one does work for me, what doesn't work for me. So in terms of
Mhm.
nourishment itself, not in just of in terms, not as in terms of food. How do you define nourishment for you? Not in terms of food.
So that actually came later. I didn't
Mm,
understand in my 20s and even in my early 30s. I'm 43 almost this year. I didn't understand then that nourishment meant all levels. Like, I was
mm,
now feeding my body well, and I was giving it all these plant allies, and I'd removed the triggers, but I still wasn't all me. You know what I
yeah.
mean? I was like functioning on half level. And
Mm,
when I started tuning in more to the emotional side of things, because emotion
mm,
was difficult for me. Like I said, I overrode so much. And our
mm.
farm burnt down in 2016. And for 2 years
Get
after
that.
that, we were on a knife edge of losing everything that we'd worked for
Mm,
as a family. So for
yeah.
those 2 years, I was trying to earn an income. I was trying to raise my kids. There was a lot going on, and I was just feeling worse and worse and worse.
Mm,
And it was at that point that I realized I was missing the key components of emotion. So
mm,
to come back to your question, for me at this stage, the key of everything is to be in a place of joy, to
mm,
bring joy. If there is distortion, if there is an emotion coming up, to not override. I try and find now, with myself and with many women in a day, is what brings you joy. Why is that not bringing joy? Is it out
mm.
of alignment?
Yes.
And that. So for me, it's time in the sun. It's, like I said, laughing. It's my favorite
Yeah.
thing. My face needs to scrunch up, my nose, my every wrinkle needs to be working at full pace from laughter.
Love it.
Time in nature and wild water. That's my biggest thing. Wild
Uh,
water brings me such a level of just peace.
Yeah. I love the definition of what it meant to you in terms of nourishment. And that's just
Mm.
plain finding your joy. Because I feel like, again, society has told us that we have to perform, and
Mm.
performance is our joy. And if I'm able to say, I make certain amount of money, then that's my joy. I
Oh,
have I have three beautiful children. That's my joy. Not that
Mm.
they're not joy, they're amazing. I have kids as well, and they're amazing. But we often forget that it's not an object. It's the inside.
Mhm.
What brings you joy? Like you say, what
Yes.
are the things in your heart that when your face squeeze up and your heart tingles and
Yes.
tingles all over, and like you said, either you're in nature or you're dancing or you're having a good time watching a
Exactly.
good movie or you're hanging with a girlfriend and just having like
Mm.
heart-to-heart conversation or stimulating conversations, like
Yeah.
what brings you joy. And we don't
What
often,
brings joy?
yeah, we don't often dwell in that space to find out because oftentimes we don't know until we try. Because we've learned so much of that of doing that we don't even know what brings us joy. And I hope as listeners, anyone listening today would ponder upon that and say, what truly brings me joy? And it's okay to try different things, right? Until you find what brings you joy, right? Until you try, you
Totally.
wouldn't know. Oftentimes. I love that you said that. But now
And
let's kind
also,
of right.
sorry, for
Okay,
me,
go ahead.
what's also just to add to that is I also did away with a lot of things that weren't bringing me joy. And I,
Mm,
for years, thought it wasn't okay. Like a
mm,
boundary was not okay. Like,
yeah,
oof, I had to, like we said, override. So
yeah.
it's in that finding joy, being okay with other people not being okay with it. I
Mm,
had to dance around like an absolute hooligan in my lounge, and my kids are rolling their eyes, going, "Oh, mom, please,
damn.
not this again." But like you say, I've got goosebumps all over. It is just, I'm thriving. My heart is fluttering. I don't care who's watching and who's not joining me.
Yeah.
Leave. And that's okay. If
Mm,
chasing money isn't your thing and it isn't bringing you joy, but sitting in a forest writing poetry is,
yeah.
and the noise is coming in, you need to be earning, leave. Your purpose will come through that passion and that joy.
Absolutely. You're speaking my language today. I absolutely love it.
Mm.
Now let's talk about rest in general. In terms of the world now, when the world reward also and pushing through, and we know it's specific as women, we know how to also and push through. How can
Mm.
us women or through experience begin to unlearn the belief that rest or ease is a weakness rather than something that's more of a nourishment to us?
That is such a good question because, again, in my younger years, I didn't understand that. I
Mm,
overrode it at all times. And I always say to my clients, your body's whispering along the way, like, please, hi, I need help. Hello. And you're going, no, we've got to do things. We've got deadlines. It comes back to bite us in the butt all the
mm,
time on different levels. So for me now, what I often say to people is you do not have to get up and tick the boxes like you say. You
mm,
need to tune in first and listen. Like, get up today and I feel like I am so strong I could flip a car. So I'm
mm,
going to go and pick up, the heaviest weights. Tomorrow I might not feel like that. Tomorrow I might feel like my blankie. And that's okay. And to tune into that rest and not override because there's a reason. I didn't understand leaning in to go with our natural rhythm and not against it. So
mm.
it's again bringing in all forms of what nourishes you on an emotional, physical, and mental state, and not feel guilty about that. If I can't go to the gym today, but I want to
So
dance
be,
for 20 minutes,
mhm.
your body is going to love that 10 times more than that.
Mhm. Absolutely, absolutely. Because you're going with not just your body, but with your emotions or how you feel, rather than
Yes. Yeah.
It's all amazing, but how do you feel? And I think that was the next question I was going to ask you. But let me ask you this way. Can you tell us like what it looks like on a day-to-day, what you just said, to work with your body instead of battling with it? And how does that shift when you start prioritizing how you feel, like you said earlier, over how you look? So what does that look like for you on just a day-to-day example for us, if you can walk us through.
So that it would be different for every woman. And that's what I love about it, because I don't like one umbrella for all of us to squish under. We can't. We're all
Yeah.
so different. So in
Yeah.
terms of my day, I used to, like I said, I used to wake up at 4:30, be on a spinning bike, or even till recently, till a year ago, I would train at 5 a.m. with my husband because it motivated him and it was time together. I
Mm.
can't do that. My body resisted it for so long. So now I've listened and gone, I'm sorry, that's not what we want to do anymore. We want to train at 5 p.m. I want to train at 5 p.m. So my
Mhm.
day, I prefer starting slower.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush and go. But in a day, every day is different. Some days
Yeah.
I'll wake up and I'll go, if I don't eat some
Woo.
form of red meat right now, somebody is going to be in trouble. And then I listen. So it's that
That's a
intuitive
that's a
eating.
perimenopause talking to you.
The carnivore, the Italian carnivore. But it's leaning in as opposed to leaning away from.
Yeah. Yeah.
I try and move every day. It doesn't look the same every day. Some days, like I said, I will grab the heaviest weights.
Mm.
Other days, I will take a walk or a sprint or dance.
Yeah.
But I have basics. I need sunlight on my skin every day. I need hydration. I need to eat enough because that is one of the things that I find we are under eating and we're promoting under eating. So
Yeah.
getting in enough food to keep us stable
Yeah.
and again nourished. This word is just, it's going to be overused in this next hour. And then moving. I need to move my body.
Yeah.
And those
Uh,
are the basics. If you can just give yourself that guideline,
mm,
but not force yourself into a box every single day. Like,
mm,
have I eaten enough? Have I moved? Can be 5 minutes on a rebounder. It can be squats.
yeah.
Whatever it is that day that you have the capacity for, because if you push against it, you bring stress.
Yeah.
And when a woman's body isn't in safety
Mm.
and it's not feeling safe, you cannot heal. It's just not going to happen.
I love that. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you talk about movement as well, because it's part of what I totally believe as well in terms of we have to find a way to move every day. And like you said, you could wake up some days like we all do, and you feel like we are superwoman. You can do
Mm-hmm.
everything and all things, depending on what stage of the cycle you also are as women
Yeah.
sometimes, and making the best use of that. It's okay. And you wake up and some days you wake up and you feel like, I just want to quit everything. Like I'm not good enough, whatever the hormones are telling you at that point. And it's okay to say, you know what? And I love that what you said. And the reason why I'm saying that is those days, you at least you know I need these four things. No matter how I'm feeling, I'm gonna get the sun. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
update myself. I'm going to hit well. I might not be able to go to the gym and lift weights, but at least I'm going to do A, B, C, whatever the case may be, that is essential for my body to keep thriving and moving. And I love that. And not saying that, this is what I have to do, but saying whatever the day brings, at least this is what I'm going to do. This is my value, I guess, my value that I have to make sure that I follow. And again, I guess I would say also that, and if some days you can't, it's okay. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's
And
okay. It's
your
tomorrow's
body doesn't
another
know
day.
what day it is.
Absolutely.
It doesn't know. So if I wake up today and I just need softness, I need
Yeah.
to be soft on myself. That's fine. Because like you say, tomorrow I'm going to be flipping tires down the driveway like, a she-woman, a
Yeah.
she-hulk. But it's for me as well, my status quo every single day is, like I said, consistency.
Correct.
Because I've seen this in women. When your body knows you are working with it and not
Yeah.
against it, it breathes and it goes, okay, there's more
Yeah.
food coming. I don't have to hold on to everything. I'm not starving. She's not
Yeah.
putting me through torture because she ate cake yesterday. It's it's literally just working alongside, going, I see you. You've asked for chocolate, but actually we need cacao because it's magnesium. So we're going to make ourselves a hot chocolate and not grab, a Cadbury's bar off the shelf.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
it's a tough one because we've been taught to override.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all comes back to, listening to our body. So now let's talk
Mm.
about this. How can, women, especially women, now treat movement and nutrition as, we often take, do it as a form of control, right? Many women treat movement and nutrition as a form of control. Again, checking the box or saying this is what I'm doing, But how can we begin to shift this habit into care and connection intentionally?
So my barometer, I love that because honestly, from all these years of working with so many different women on varying levels of health and disease or dis-ease, what I see across the board is they have no love for what they're doing. If there
Mm,
is no, if there's no respect for the body and a love for what you're doing,
mm,
then it malaligns that whole thing and you start fighting back. There's this polarity of, well, something's not right. So for me, it comes down to, am I doing something that is going to trigger disease in my body,
mm.
or am I doing something that is going to fight disease? And in that, if you're doing a movement that you absolutely despise,
Yeah.
why? Why go? Because you're putting yourself in a stressful environment. It's
Absolutely.
not okay. So then, instead of doing, like, I cannot stand running. Cannot. If you see me running, it's an emergency and you should follow.
Something's
That
triggering you.
is like, that's standard. I don't run unless it's an emergency. But there are so many women that I work with that they're like, Daniela, I ran 10 Ks today. And I'm like, did you have fun? No, I hated it. Why are you doing it then?
Yeah.
So
Mm,
again, it is a mechanism of control because everything else around them feels like chaos.
yeah.
And it is honestly when you bring it back to, is this bringing me a level of healing?
Yeah.
And if it's a no on any level, then you need to change tactic. Food,
Absolutely.
there are certain foods that I will not allow into my body. And that I learned again from
Yeah,
pain to purpose.
absolutely.
For me, most women should not be having dairy.
Mm,
Most of us, not just women, men, no sugar, and wheat is a very dangerous one. So those three things, at least for a season, if not forever, should be removed. And within that framework, I eat pizza every week,
mm,
but I make my bases. I use the dairy-free cheese, so you learn to adapt. You have what you love, you just modify to bring in things that are not feeding disease.
absolutely. I love that. I have a good some example that just pop in my head. So I was talking to a client one time, and she said, I cut down my sugar. And then she was like, I can usually, it is always funny to me because she's not the only one that said it. And she said something like, I can drink like maybe 3 cans of soda we call them of Coca-Cola a day. What I do now is I cut down. She said, you know what? I just take half of it and mix it with water. And so I have my full. Oh, I was just like, and I often hear that people say I'm cutting down my sugar, so I mix it with water. I'm like, who is teaching everybody this logic of
And even in my own family, because there are different, obviously, there's different forms of dis-ease, everybody, but it's such a normal feeling. Like, it's fine to be tired all day. It's fine to be inflamed. No, it's not. That's not how we were designed to live. Like, there's a better way to do this. And even with my kids, everyone kept saying to me, like, Daniela, aren't you depriving your children because they're not having sugar?
Yeah,
I said, no, I make them marshmallows
yeah,
just with the right ingredients. But I
yeah.
teach them. Like, for me, the biggest thing is education. My kids know. Like, Mom, why aren't we eating yellow cheese? Because it
Mm,
brings in hormones and it brings in antibiotics that your body doesn't understand. And then it alters how your body functions from there on out. So I believe very strongly that we need to educate people along the way as to
Absolutely.
why we're not doing these things. But just to bring it back around to how we can incorporate not being in a controlled way every single day, it's back to listening.
Yes.
It's
Mhm.
intuitive eating. It's,
Yeah,
I feel like this. What is my body actually asking for? And then bringing it back to the safest version of that.
absolutely. I love that. And I love that you also mentioned the base of it is education, to understand what our body needs. Because
Mhm.
until you actually understand and you're educated about what your body needs, even when you feel it, it's like saying you're going to an exam and you're going to be doing geometry, whatever, and you went and learned algebra instead of geometry. You're gonna fail, right? You're gonna fail. We need to
Yep.
understand what our body it means. And I often teach in my courses that, do the self-mastery when you kind of do the whole evaluation of your body, mind, and soul. For example, you
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, if, for example, you have significant family issue of hypertension, diabetes, it doesn't matter what you feel and how you feel. You have this, the fact of the matter is your genes is built in certain ways. So you need to learn what your body needs. And that comes through
Mhm.
and awareness and knowing that I have a
Yes.
family history of breast cancer. So I need to do this A, B, C, D. I have my family were obese. So I know I need to do A, B, C, no matter what. So the
Yes.
base of it is education, awareness first. And then you can now build on it, which is
So,
now self-commitment that I call it. But let me go back to what you also mentioned earlier when you talk about, when you someone that will run 20 miles and then you ask them, do you have fun? And they're like, no. And we often, again, back to education, we often don't understand that our brain doesn't realize that. All the brain is saying is, I'm in a stressful situation and I have to survive.
yeah,
You're always running this survival mode rather than thriving. And your brain is always holding on because it seems like you're just in a flight and flee all the time. Like we need to be educated enough. I think one of the great job that you're doing and we're doing is the education part of it, letting people understand that it's not about only what you're doing, but it's about how your brain process this information.
oh,
Brain doesn't see you running. It just sees, if you don't enjoy it, feels a situation where I need to survive and the cortisol level is up because I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. I'm stressed out.
exactly.
So your brain needs to understand. We need to start teaching more about how our brain interprets what we're doing because the brain doesn't,
Totally.
So I love that you mentioned that in terms of how you feel, in terms of how you're feeling, what you're doing, if you don't enjoy it, your brain sees it as a threat. If you do, if you're hungry and you're saying to yourself, "I no, because I ate a cake yesterday, I'm not going to
Yeah.
eat anything." Your
Oh,
brain doesn't know that. It doesn't know that you had a cake yesterday. All your brain knows is, I need food, and you're not giving it to me, so I'm going to
yeah.
hold on. Right? I'm going to hold on to it until next. Right? So this is where you said the consistency comes in. Consistency comes in, and I love
And
that.
yeah, and it really just for in terms of that, it
Mm.
is. I used to finish up with my classes at 5 p.m. in the evening. My last one, say, would end at 7 p.m. I would drive straight to the nearest shop, grab a lemon meringue, and like in my
Mm.
face, and
Mm.
then scratch and not understand why. So
Wow.
I always say
Mm.
to people, I'm not talking from a place of, this elevated place of bookwork going, you're doing wrong. It's not out of judgment. It is
Absolutely.
fully out of experience and going, you are not you are not putting your body in a state of safety, and
Yeah.
you're here and your body's there. It can't
Yeah.
thrive then. You're two separate entities. Instead
Yeah.
of, like you say, weaving it all back together again and realizing these different components of ourselves
Mm.
that are absolutely phenomenal, but we're
Yeah.
not listening. We're
Abs-
not listening. We're following a trend going,
Yes.
I must fast now for 28 hours. And our
Mm.
poor body is screaming because it's at the wrong part of our cycle. It's, and then
Yeah.
hoovering a burger down. You
Absolutely.
you can't thrive.
Absolutely. Now we've kind of talked about it, but let's kind of put it up, bring it home and connect it. Can you speak, to the connection of emotional self-care and physical well-being, right?
Mm.
And what happens when we ignore one for the other? I mean, we cannot talk about it, but just kind of let's bring it home to just kind of talk about that connection between emotional self-care and physical well-being. And if we ignore
Mhm.
it, what happens one to the other?
So I always like using myself as an example because obviously I can speak from a place of experience.
Mm,
When we were going through the worst of the worst, I didn't realize how angry and resentful I was. I was
mm,
angry, like, why me? I'm a nice person. How come we
mm,
had to, like, why did the farm burn down? Anyway, 2 years of all this anger, this resentment, and this guilt because I've got 2 young kids. I need to focus on work. Even keeping myself consistent, my liver felt like it was cramping
wow.
all day, every day. And
Mm,
being who I was at the time, emotion, like I said, gets overridden. So
yeah,
my emotional state was not met. I was not focusing there and I was doing nothing to help my emotional state. So my physical body was going, hello, knock, knock, hello,
yeah,
where the liver, being the organ that holds anger and resentment, was asking for help. When I
mm,
finally tuned in and realized, okay, I've actually got to deal with this, the liver softened and I was able to work through that. So now it again put me in a place of, if I work with someone and they've got constant stomach ache, I'm going, what are you worrying about? Let's
yeah,
start there. We've removed the trigger food, but
yeah.
now the physical body is still asking for help. Let's tune into the emotional body. So I'm not sure if I'm misinterpreting your question, but that's how I deal with it now. I look at the two, physical body, emotional body, and find that happy place. So I always look at the emotion that's triggering the organ and the major organ systems, and then clean those out,
Yeah.
help the body just look at the emotion, find it, and
I
allow it.
Absolutely. Because there's always one connected, always
Always.
that we'll find. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and I think the other question I was going to ask you was just, saying, what signs of the body, which is exactly what you just talked about. The signs is usually can be, your liver or having a headache that
Mhm.
will not go away because, you think it's migraine, but it's because you're overstressed or you're not sleeping well or you're not eating well. There's often something that's connected, not, that we need to find out the emotional part of it. And I can also, again, I'm vulnerable enough to just also share because I remembered when we talk about emotional and physical, in terms of physical wellness, I mean, I was the point that I was having this migraine, this crazy, headaches. And
Mhm.
I literally was the point of like, you know what? I think maybe I have a head tumor. Maybe I have a tumor. I need to go get it checked out. But then when I
Mhm.
kind of, you know what, let's bring it back home, what exactly is going on? And it's all stress related. I was burnt out. I was burnt out. And it's all,
Mhm.
and that, and I had all the too many things on my plate, boundaries were out of place.
Ooh,
A place of, a place again, resentment because you're dealing with stuff. And I had to unpack that. And immediately I unpacked it, boom, headache gone.
yeah,
And
totally.
and literally, I'm telling you, this felt like I was dying. I thought something was truly wrong with me, and oftentimes that's our physical, emotional, spiritual sometimes. It's all intertwined when our core is divided and is not aligned and we're not in
Yeah.
alignment, this can often happen, right? And I truly believe that. I truly believe that. But let's start talking to someone directly today that, might be listening, will listen and saying, I understand what you guys are talking about, right? I get it. But listen, I'm just starting this journey. What are some gentle practices to rebuild my body trust? Because I don't even trust my body anymore. I don't even know where to
Mhm.
begin. What will you say to that person that would be listening in, is listening in and saying, how do I rebuild this body trust that you're talking about?
That is, I could keep you busy on that for another hour. It is for me, such a delicate, intricate topic. But I think where I start with
Mm,
anyone that comes to me with that is that, first of all, I look at what inside your lifestyle is
mm,
bringing harm to your body.
mm,
So a lot of people, without even knowing it, are getting over 700 chemicals a day by, body products or alcohol or different things. So first, what I do is I remove those harmful things, because in that, the body's going, okay, woo, get comfy, I can breathe again. And then from there, then move out on the different layers. So you can't detox a body that can't feel safe. It won't
Mm,
allow it. So
mm,
if you are pushing all these toxins in and your body's going, fight this, fight that, punch that, move that, you need to first bring that safety. And already there, your body will tune in going, wait, something's different. Let's
mm,
do that. And then moving outwards and bring in all these nourishing meals a day, every day,
yeah.
and so on and so on. So it's a very big thing for me. It's a lifestyle change. It needs
Mm,
to, often if they're in that position, they need somebody to hold their hand that
yeah.
they can also trust, that goes, do you know what? You're fine. You're safe. Let's bring that in or take that away.
Mm,
So it's that deep knowing that you are not stuck. You are
mm,
not stuck where you are, and
mm.
undoing.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Because oftentimes, like you said, if you don't feel safe, then it's impossible. You have to get to the place of saying, of almost like an acceptance first. Like, okay, this is where I am. But then, and your brain aligns with that. And then you feel safe enough to say, you know what? Now I'm ready to unpack
Mm-hmm.
slowly with, like, oftentimes even with the coach, with someone's guidance, or there's other different ways to do that, but it just bring it home to say I'm safe and I'm ready. And I think when we start doing that and in being intentional about it, and
Mm-hmm.
the understanding also that it's going to be a bit messy, because I think we often think that it's so easy, and it's like I feel like I'm like, this thing is so messy. It's like you gotta sit in your funk, like I call it. You have to learn to sit in that funk
Yeah.
and and just layers like an onion. You layer it out because there's so much layers to unpack. And when you
Yeah.
begin to unpack, you begin to feel your body again. You begin to feel
Mm-hmm.
the emotions that come to your body. You begin to
Yeah.
have sensations again, and then
Mm-hmm.
you go in layer by layers. And I always say it's an endless job. It's not something that you get to.
No,
Every,
and it's that disconnect, and
absolutely.
I think for a lot of people, we've surrounded ourselves with perhaps sometimes the people that promote chaos. Like,
Mm,
how many people do you see in a day and you go, how are you doing? And you can see they're not being truthful and they're going, fine. Meanwhile, because we are honoring the busy-ness and the chaos, and the fuller
mm,
your life is, find
mm.
real people that you can be
Yeah,
messy with. And like you say,
yeah.
find people you can be okay sitting in that absolute mess in and going, I'm actually not all right, but I'm
Mm.
working on it.
Absolutely. I love that. So let's talk about this. What are some myths that you wish more women would unlearn about fitness, dieting,
Mm.
or the goal, like with goals that we call it nowadays? Like, what are some myths that you feel like you wish that women would unlearn,
Mm.
especially experience in your practice?
So the first thing I do is I get them to chuck out the scale. Like, I don't
Mm.
even want to see that
Woo,
thing.
I love that. Woo, yes. Mm, mm, mm.
I want you to take a hammer and actually physically destroy the thing, because I can work with somebody for a month and I can see on their profile, their muscular system is changing. They're glowing. And then they'll get on the scale and they go, oh, I'm 3 kgs heavier. And it totally unravels them. Not
Yeah.
understanding all the intricacies of water weight, muscle weight, where you are in your cycle. So that's the first thing. That
Mm,
goes
yeah.
immediately.
I love that.
I To me, there should be no whole foods, like real foods, that are removed. I don't believe in going without carbohydrates.
Yeah.
Like, if my day doesn't include a sweet potato,
Woo.
like, I'm going to start getting a twitch. in my eyeball. It's something's going to go wrong. So for me, it's bringing in, like I said, all these juicy foods and making them into these amazing creations. So don't cut out plants or foods that were given to us to help us
Mm,
thrive.
absolutely.
In training, like I said, do not follow trends. Like for
Mm,
me, I've been through every form of movement that possibly exists at this moment in time.
mm,
There are certain things that your body feels great in, and there are certain things like if you are feeling pain for 2 hours afterwards or waking up the next day and there's inflammation, look into that. Don't
mm.
just do it because it's new and you have to do it.
I love it.
One other, like for me, also in the training sphere, is like training until you vomit or
Mm,
training until that hasn't been something I can handle for many years. It
mhm.
destroys me.
Yeah.
So not pushing your body to that level is big. And then
Mm,
calorie counting,
mm,
that drives me dilly.
mm,
I do it with elite athletes, but
mm.
in excess, meaning I
Yeah.
don't bring them down. I make sure that their day to day is covering every base. So I need to know you're getting so many carbohydrates, proteins, fats. But on
Yeah.
an average day, count your toxins. Like there's where the
Mm,
damage is. If I'm eating a bag of, you know, Fruit Loops and it's the
oof.
same calories as a quinoa bowl, that is
Mm,
not switching on the same markers in my body, not even close. So
yeah.
get away from the calorie counting and get
Yeah.
into the toxin counting. I think that covers the biggest bases for me.
Ooh, I love that. I love that. I absolutely love that. I have to write that down. I like it. Okay. Absolutely. And let's talk a bit about also like, as we round up, let's talk about the body goals as well. Because again, especially as women, we've known to be, look at Daniela. She's tiny. I want to be tiny like Daniela. Oh, but I
Mhm.
practice da 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 da, and everybody's talking about this body goals. Like I always think to myself, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
I was born, my dad is 6'4", my mom. So I'm a tall woman and I'm
Yeah.
gonna be tall, and I'm blessed to have a good genetics that makes me
Mm.
lean. And again, doesn't mean that I don't work hard and to make sure that
Mm.
I'm healthy and all that, because I could be obese if I choose to, if I don't do the right thing. But don't look at me and assume that this is what the goal should be. Like, let's debunk that in terms of that body goals. I know it's been said over and over again, but just talk a bit about that in terms of your own practice, in terms of, again, this body goals that everybody's
Mm.
talking about.
So when a woman comes to me and says, Daniela, I want to look like this or I want to lose that, I stop them straight away. And I say to them, when you work from the inside out, the exterior changes as a
Mm,
happy byproduct. But when
mm,
you focus on the outside, normally your inside body gets the damage
mm,
because, again, there's deprivation and punishment. So when I work with somebody, I literally do that. I say, pause, we're going to get there. Your body will shift. Mine did. I didn't look like I do now,
yeah,
but the inflammation drops. So
yeah.
you suddenly leaner. Your posture changes. I grew
Mm,
4 centimeters last year. I did at 42. My kids are like, please stop telling people that. I said, I won't, because I'm very proud of my 4 centimeters. So when you nourish the inside, the outside shifts. You will suddenly look leaner because there's no puffiness. So
yeah.
I don't encourage women to look at their outside body goal.
Mm,
When we get out of our own way and we bring ourselves back to, again, the safety, we remove
mm,
the trigger foods and we allow all the blockages, the detox pathways to open up. The outside body, without fail, changes and you suddenly get to that body goal
yeah.
without focusing from the, like I said, from the outside in. So it's that switch where I see the biggest magic happen.
I love that. And oftentimes I feel like, when people come in, like you said, when we begin to do that inner work and things connect, Even your own goals, your body goals for yourself actually changes. You now realize, oh, what was I thinking again? Like we like what? No, I don't want that goal that I set for. Oh, no, no, no. I
Yeah.
love this me. I love this new me.
Yes.
Absolutely. Acceptance comes, and I feel like that
Yes.
changes. Absolutely. So let's round up today because again, time is rounding up, and I often love asking this question so to all our guests, and it goes like this: If your body could whisper one truth to every woman listening in today, especially those feeling tired, overwhelmed, or disconnected, what would it say about the power of slowing down and truly nourishing yourself?
Ooh, that's a deep one. So the instant thing that comes up for me is when there is tiredness and overwhelm and disconnect, there is a disconnect and you're not aligned.
Mm.
So I would say there that again, because why are you tired? Why are you trying to run away from that or needing to run away from it? So find your joy, no matter who has what to say, find your joy and just thrive on that because you
Mm.
cannot go wrong when the butterflies and your heart align and you
Mm.
just the smile wraps around your head.
Wow, I love that. I love that. Daniela, it has been amazing conversation. It has truly, truly been amazing conversation. I feel like there's so much to pick up, so much to learn, there's so much nuggets. We often again say that this is about the triple E to encourage, educate, and equip women. And you've come and you've checked all those boxes, even though we don't check boxes, but you've checked the boxes for us.
Oh, thank you for such a beautiful hour. And it literally felt like having a cup of tea with a friend. So thank you.
Love it. I love it. Absolutely. Thank you so much. We are honored to have your voice as part of our She Self-Care Collective. Thank you for sharing your journey, your wisdom, and your light with our community. And if someone wants to get in touch with you and say, I love that lady, how can I work with her? What is she all about? Tell us a bit about how they can reach you.
So my website is livewholesome.com. And then I'm on Instagram, Daniela Rogers Live Wholesome. And then if they reach out from there, then I will do my very best to walk alongside them. Broomstick in one hand, softness on the other. But I would
Absolutely.
love that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you again, guys, so much for listening in today. Again, I'm your host, Bece, aka Bece Bright. And if you're listening in today and it's your first time, I'm a healthcare practitioner, an executive coach, and also the founder of She Self Cares. And again, the platform is for women. The triple E is our thing to educate, encourage, and equip women to prioritize themselves and thrive. Thank you for joining, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the She Self Care Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a review to help others find us. Remember, self care is a journey, not a destination, and you deserve every moment of it. Until next time, keep shining and taking care of yourself, body, mind, and soul. You've got this.